Jake Morrison watched the massive space station grow larger through the bridge windows of his ship. Kepler Station looked like a giant metal flower with dozens of docking arms stretching out in all directions. Ships of many different shapes and sizes were attached to those arms like insects feeding on nectar. "We're cleared for docking bay 12, Amy Watson said from her seat at the communications console. Her voice was warm and friendly, the kind that made other species feel comfortable around humans. "They want to know what goods we're carrying this time." "Tell them the usual," Jake replied with a smile. "Medical supplies, entertainment systems, and some of those coffee beans the Nexari love so much." He turned to Pete Rodriguez, who was checking the engine readings. "How are we looking, Pete?" "All green, Captain," Pete said in his easygoing way. "Though I'm getting some odd readings from the power core. Nothing dangerous, just unusual." Lisa Chen looked up from her navigation station. Her dark eyes were calm and steady, but Jake noticed how she kept one hand near the emergency controls. Old habits died hard, even after 20 years of pretending to be peaceful traders. "Station traffic is heavy today," Lisa said. "Looks like there's a big trade meeting happening. I count ships from at least 8 different species." As they docked, Jake felt the familiar weight in his stomach. Not from the artificial gravity, but from the constant need to be someone he wasn't. For 50 years, humans had played this game. They smiled, they traded, they helped other species with their problems. They were the friendly neighbors of the galaxy, always ready to lend a hand or share a meal. The truth was much different. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Jake led his crew into the station. The main corridor was wide and tall, built to accommodate the different body types of the galaxy's species. Zephyrians floated past like living clouds, their bodies seeming to shift between solid and gas. A group of Corvin clicked and buzzed as they walked, their insect-like bodies moving with mechanical precision. Near a shop selling exotic foods, several Nexari stood perfectly still, their crystal bodies pulsing with colored light as they talked to each other. "Captain Morrison," a cheerful voice called out. Jake turned to see Trader Venth, a Zephyrian he had dealt with many times before. The alien's form solidified as he approached, taking on a more human-like shape out of politeness. "Venth, good to see you again," Jake said, extending his hand for a shake. The Zephyrian's grip was cool and light, like touching morning mist. "How's business?" Very good, very good. The medical supplies you brought last month saved many lives on Zephyr Prime. We had an outbreak of crystal fever, but your medicines stopped it before it could spread." Venth's face showed genuine gratitude. "We are always amazed by human generosity. Your species gives so much and asks for so little in return." Jake felt a familiar twist in his stomach. The Zephyrians were peaceful beings who had never known war. They thought all intelligent species were like them, focused on art and philosophy and helping each other. They had no idea they were talking to a predator. "We're happy to help," Jake said, meaning it more than Venth could know. That's what neighbors do. As they walked through the station, Jake's crew spread out naturally. To anyone watching, they looked relaxed and casual. But Jake noticed how Amy positioned herself where she could watch 3 different corridors at once. Pete kept near the wall where no one could get behind him. Lisa moved with quick, quiet steps that never made a sound. They were hunting. Even here, even while pretending to be harmless traders, they were constantly watching, constantly ready. It was built into their bones, written in their DNA by millions of years of evolution. Humans were persistence hunters, pack predators who had climbed to the top of their world's food chain through intelligence, endurance, and the ability to work together. The other species didn't know, couldn't know. Jake stopped at a bar where several different aliens were drinking and talking. The owner, a round creature with 4 arms called a Polton, waved them over. "Human friends," the Polton called out. Come, I have that earth drink you like." "What do you call it?" "Coffee." "That sounds perfect," Jake said, settling onto a stool designed for human-sized beings. His crew joined him, and soon they were surrounded by curious aliens wanting to hear stories from Earth. This was the game. Humans told funny stories about their homeworld. shared pictures of their families, and talked about human culture in ways that made them seem harmless and entertaining. They were the galaxy's friendly pets, interesting, but not threatening. "Tell us about human mating rituals," requested a young Corvin whose shell was still soft with youth. "We hear they are very complex." Amy laughed, a sound like silver bells. "Oh, they can be. Humans spend a lot of time trying to impress each other. The males often bring flowers or gifts. Sometimes they write poetry, though most of it is terrible. The aliens found this hilarious. Poetry-writing predators seemed like a contradiction to them. If they only knew that human poetry often celebrated war and death as much as love and beauty." Jake's communicator buzzed softly. He glanced at it and felt his blood turn cold. It was a distress signal, broadcast on an emergency frequency that only humans were supposed to know. The message was short and desperate. "Research Station Horizon Base under attack. Multiple casualties. Need immediate assistance. Coordinates attached. Tell no one." Jake looked at his crew. Amy's smile never wavered, but her eyes went hard as steel. Pete continued working on his drink, but his shoulders tensed like a cat ready to spring. Lisa kept talking to a fascinated Nexari about human art, but Jake saw her fingers drumming against her leg in military code. They had all seen the message. Jake stood up slowly, still smiling. "Well, friends, it's been wonderful as always, but we need to get back to our ship. Early departure tomorrow, and Pete needs to run some maintenance checks." The aliens protested good-naturedly, wanting them to stay longer. Jake felt sick as he hugged Venth goodbye, knowing that this might be the last time they could pretend to be friends. Once humans showed their true face, everything would change. Back on their ship, the friendly masks came off immediately. "How far to those coordinates?" Jake asked as Lisa jumped to her navigation station. 18 hours at maximum speed, she replied, her voice now crisp and professional. "But Captain, it's in Nexari space, right on the border with the dead zone. If we go there, we might have to drop the act," Jake finished. "I know." Pete was already at his engineering station, and Jake could hear systems coming online that weren't supposed to exist on a merchant vessel. "Defensive systems are ready, Captain, and the special cargo is secure." Amy had switched her communications array to military frequencies. "I'm picking up chatter from nearby ships. No one else seems to have detected the distress signal." Jake stared out at the peaceful space station, watching aliens go about their daily lives. For 50 years, humanity had hidden among them, learning their weaknesses, studying their technology, mapping their trade routes and military positions, all while pretending to be harmless. "Set course for Horizon Base," he ordered. "And Amy, send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them the game might be up." As the Starlight Wanderer pulled away from Kepler Station, Jake wondered if they would ever be able to come back. Once the galaxy saw what humans really were, there would be no more pretending, no more hiding. The hunt was about to begin. The dead world looked like a broken marble hanging in space. Its surface was cracked and gray with no signs of life anywhere. But floating above it was Horizon Base, a research station that looked too small and fragile to survive in such a lonely place. Jake Morrison studied the scanner readings while his crew worked around him. The cheerful traders from yesterday were gone, replaced by something harder and more focused. They moved like hunters now, every action quick and purposeful. "Durim, reading damage to the outer hull," Lisa Chen reported from her station. Her voice was calm but sharp like a blade wrapped in silk. "Multiple blast marks. Whatever hit them, it wasn't pirates using salvaged weapons." Pete Rodriguez looked up from his engineering console. "Power levels are low but stable. Life support is working but barely. If there are survivors, they don't have long." Amy Watson had been silent for the past hour, listening to communications across dozens of frequencies. Now she spoke without taking her eyes off her screens. "Captain, I'm picking up encrypted signals. Someone is still alive over there and they're scared." Jake nodded. "Can you make contact?" "Already trying." Amy's fingers danced over her controls with practiced skill. "Horizon Base, this is Merchant Vessel Starlight Wanderer. Please respond." "The why?" Reply came immediately, weak but desperate. Starlight Wanderer, thank God. This is Dr. Karen Bell, Station Commander. We have 17 survivors barricaded in the central lab. The attackers are still out there waiting. What attackers? Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer. Ravak, Dr. Bell said, and Jake felt ice in his veins. We thought they were extinct, but there are at least 5 ships. They've been hunting us for 3 days, picking off anyone who tries to leave the safe areas. The Ravak were supposed to be legend, a species of raiders so violent that the galaxy had wiped them out centuries ago. They were said to be natural killers who enjoyed causing pain and fear. If they were real, and if they were here, then the situation was worse than Jake had imagined. Hold tight, Doctor, Jake said. We're coming to get you. But even as he spoke, the ship's alarms began to sound. Lisa's voice cut through the noise like a knife. Captain, we have company. 3 ships coming in fast from behind the planet. Jake looked at the main screen and saw them. The Ravak ships were ugly things covered in spikes and weapons designed to cause fear as much as damage. They moved like hunting birds, fast and aggressive. Incoming message, Amy reported. The face that appeared on the screen was a nightmare. The Ravak commander had yellow eyes and teeth like broken glass. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. Little human ship, it said with obvious pleasure. You should not have come here. Now you will die with the others. The transmission ended, and the Ravak ships opened fire. Jake felt something change inside him, like a switch being flipped. The friendly merchant captain disappeared, replaced by something that had been hiding for 50 years. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered, and his voice was different now. Colder, harder. Lisa's hands moved across her controls like she was playing a deadly song. The Starlight Wanderer twisted and spun through space, avoiding the energy blasts by inches. But this wasn't the clumsy flying of a frightened trader. This was the work of someone who had trained for war. Pete, I need everything you've got, Jake said. You got it, Captain. Pete's easygoing smile was gone, replaced by the focused expression of a warrior. His fingers flew over his console, and suddenly the ship was humming with power that shouldn't exist. Hidden weapon systems came online. Extra armor plating slid into place. The merchant vessel transformed into something much more dangerous. Amy, scan their ships, find me their weak points. Amy's communication equipment became something else entirely. In seconds, she had hacked into the Ravak ship systems and was feeding targeting data to Lisa. Lead ship has weak shields on the port side. Second ship is overloading their engines. Third ship has weapon systems that are running too hot. Jake smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. Lisa, you know what to do. What happened next would have shocked anyone who thought they knew humans. The Starlight Wanderer didn't run, or hide or call for help. Instead, it attacked. Lisa flew the ship like it was part of her own body, putting it exactly where Jake needed it to be. Pete kept the engines running at impossible levels while managing power to weapons that were far too advanced for a simple trading vessel. Amy jammed the Ravak communications while feeding perfect targeting information to her crewmates. They worked, together like parts of a single organism, each one knowing exactly what the others would do before they did it. It was pack-hunting behavior refined by millions of years of evolution and thousands of years of warfare. The first Ravak ship died in 30 seconds. Lisa put them right where Amy said the shields were weakest, and Pete's hidden weapons tore through the hull like it was made of paper. The second ship lasted a little longer, but only because it tried to run. The Starlight Wanderer chased it down with the patience of a persistence hunter, wearing it down until its overheated engines finally exploded. The third ship was smarter. It tried to use the research station as a shield, knowing the humans wouldn't risk hurting the survivors. That was a mistake. Jake had Pete disable their weapons with surgical precision while Lisa held them in place with a tractor beam that was definitely not standard merchant equipment. In less than 10 minutes, 3 Ravak ships were either destroyed or captured, and they had done it while protecting the research station and its crew. But they had also been watched. Captain, Amy said quietly, we have a problem. There's a Zephyrian scout ship at the edge of the system. They've been recording everything. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. The Zephyrians were peaceful and curious, always eager to learn about other species. They would want to understand what they had just seen. And when they reported back to their homeworld, the secret that humanity had kept for 50 years would be out. "Can we stop them from transmitting?" he asked. "Too late," Amy replied. "They started broadcasting the moment our weapons came online. By now, half the galaxy knows that human merchants just destroyed 3 Ravak warships in single combat. The rescue of the survivors from Horizon Base went smoothly after that. Dr. Bell and her people were grateful but confused. They had expected to die, and instead they had been saved by traders who fought like legendary warriors." "How did you do that?" Dr. Bell asked Jake as her people were brought aboard. She was a small woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes that saw too much. "Those were military maneuvers. That was military equipment." Jake didn't answer right away. He was watching Amy's screens, which showed the galaxy's communication networks lighting up like fireworks. News of the battle was spreading faster than light, carried by the quantum communication systems that connected every civilized world. "Doctor," he finally said, "what did your research station really study out here?" Dr. Bell hesitated, then smiled. "Sadly, we studied them, Captain. All of them. Every species in the galaxy. Their strengths, their weaknesses, their military capabilities, their trade routes, their political systems. Everything that Earth Command needed to know." "For defensive purposes?" Jake asked. "That's what we told ourselves," she replied. "But we both know the truth, don't we? Humans don't just study things for defense. We study them to understand how to defeat them if we ever need to." On the screens around them, alien news services were already calling it the human revelation. Video of the battle was being shown on every major network. Military analysts were trying to understand how a simple trading vessel had carried such advanced weapons. Political leaders were demanding answers from human ambassadors. "The game is over," Jake said quietly. Amy looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm getting messages from human ships all across the galaxy. They're being denied docking rights. Some are being ordered to leave immediately, and Earth Command is sending a priority message." Jake took the message and read it quickly. Then he read it again, not believing what he was seeing. "What does it say?" Lisa asked. Jake looked at his crew. These people who had spent 20 years, pretending to be something they weren't. "It says to prepare for the next phase. The masquerade is over, it's time to show them who we really are." Outside the ship, the stars looked the same as always. But Jake knew that everything had changed. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of, and he wasn't sure anyone was ready for that truth. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive dome of crystal and metal that floated in space between 3 star systems. It had been built to be neutral ground, a place where all species could meet as equals. Today, it felt more like a courtroom, preparing for the trial of humanity. Council Speaker Thane stood at the center podium, his insect-like body perfectly still. The Corvin were known for their logical minds and efficient ways, which made them good at running meetings. But Jake Morrison could see the tension in the way Thane's forearms moved as he spoke. "We are here because the human species has deceived us all," Thane said, his voice clicking and buzzing through the translation system. "For 50 years, they have lived among us as peaceful traders and helpful neighbors. Now we learn this was all a lie." Jake watched from his ship, which was holding position just outside the council station. The Starlight Wanderer wasn't allowed to dock anymore. None of the human ships were. In just 3 days, everything had changed. Amy Watson looked up from her communication station. "Captain, I'm counting representatives from 47 different species. This is the largest emergency session in council history." "What are they saying?" Jake asked. "Nothing good," Pete Rodriguez said from his engineering station. "My contacts on the station are telling me that some species want to quarantine all human space. Others are talking about preemptive strikes." Lisa Chen was monitoring the military frequencies. "I'm seeing fleet movements all across the galaxy. The Zephyrians have mobilized their entire defense force. The Nexari are moving their crystal ships toward our borders. Even the peaceful species are getting ready for war." On the main screen, Earth's ambassador Helen Brooks stood to address the council. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Jake had met her once, and had come away feeling like she had read his mind without trying. "Honored members of the council," Helen began, her voice steady and calm. "I am here to answer your questions and address your concerns about my species." "Your species has been lying to us for half a century," snapped a representative from the Altarian system. The bird-like alien's feathers were puffed up with anger. "You pretended to be weak and harmless while building weapons and studying our weaknesses. How can we ever trust you again?" Helen nodded as if she had expected the question. "You are right that we have not been completely honest about our capabilities. But consider this. If we had wanted to conquer the galaxy, would we have spent 50 years helping you solve your problems and healing your sick? Maybe that was part of your plan," said another representative. "Make us weak and dependent on you before you attack." Jake felt sick as he listened. These aliens had been his friends. He had shared meals with them, helped their families, celebrated their holidays. Now they were talking about him like he was a monster. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "I'm getting a priority message from Helen Brooks. She wants to speak with you privately." Jake accepted the connection, and Helen's face appeared on a private screen. Even through the communication link, her presence was commanding. "Captain Morrison," she said, "I need you to know that this situation is not what it appears to be." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The Ravik attack on Horizon Base was not random. Someone hired them. Someone who knew exactly where to find a human research station and exactly when it would be most vulnerable." Helen's eyes were hard as steel. "We have been set up." Jake felt the pieces clicking together in his mind. "The Corvins. We believe so. They have the most to lose if humanity's true capabilities become known. For centuries, they have been the galaxy's primary military power. They fear being replaced." Pete looked up from his console. "Captain, that would explain the odd readings I've been getting from our power systems. Someone has been scanning us every time we dock at a station, mapping our real capabilities." Amy was working frantically at her station. "I'm finding evidence of data theft from our systems. Someone has been copying our files for months. Technical specifications, crew records, even personal communications." Lisa pulled up star charts on her screen. If the Corvins wanted to start a war between humans, and the rest of the galaxy, attacking Horizon Base would be the perfect way to do it. Force us to show our weapons, then use that to turn everyone against us. On the main screen, the council debate was getting more heated. Thane was calling for order, while representatives shouted at each other in dozens of different languages. "The humans must be contained," declared a Zephyrian whose form was flickering with agitation. "They are predators hiding among peaceful species. Who knows what other lies they have told us?" "But they have helped us so much," protested a Nexari, their crystal body pulsing with confused colors. "When the plague struck our worlds, human doctors worked day and night to save our people. When the space pirates attacked our trade routes, human ships helped drive them away. All part of their deception," hissed the Altarian representative. "They were studying us, learning our weaknesses while pretending to be our friends." Jake realized that Helen was right. This was exactly what someone would want, the galaxy turning against humanity out of fear and anger. While everyone was focused on the human threat, the real enemy could work in the shadows. "Amy," he said, "can you trace those data thefts back to their source?" "Already working on it," she replied. "The signals are bounced through multiple relay stations, but I'm following the trail. Give me a few more minutes." "Pete, I want a full diagnostic of our systems. Find out exactly what information was stolen and when." "On it, Captain." Lisa was studying the tactical displays. "Captain, we're being surrounded. 3 Corvin battle groups are moving into position around us. If we try to leave, they'll have us in a crossfire." Jake smiled grimly. The trap was becoming obvious now. Get the humans to reveal themselves, turn the galaxy against them, then eliminate them while everyone was distracted by fear. It was a smart plan, and it almost worked. "Amy, are you getting anything on those signals?" "Yes," she said excitedly. "The data thefts are coming from a Corvin intelligence facility in the Sigma sector. But Captain, there's more. I'm detecting similar signals coming from dozens of human ships across the galaxy. They're not just spying on us, they're mapping every human vessel in space. For what purpose? Pete asked. Jake already knew the answer. For elimination. They want to know where every human ship is so they can destroy us all at once. On the council screen, Speaker Thane was calling for a vote on immediate action against humanity. Jake could see the fear in the aliens' faces, the way they looked at each other with suspicion. If humans could hide their true nature for 50 years, what other species might be lying about what they really were? Helen is trying to buy us time, Jake realized. But we need proof of the Corvin conspiracy, or this war will start whether we want it or not. Amy looked up from her console with fire in her eyes. Then let's go get that proof. What are you thinking? Jake asked. That Corvin facility in the Sigma sector. If they're coordinating this operation, all the evidence will be there. Communication, logs, payment records, tactical plans. Everything we need to expose the truth. Pete was already bringing additional systems online. It won't be easy, Captain. That facility is in the heart of Corvin space, surrounded by their best defenses. Lisa was plotting courses on her navigation screen. It's a 3-day journey through enemy territory. We'll have to avoid patrol routes and sensor networks the entire way. Jake looked at his crew, these people who had spent their lives pretending to be something they weren't. Now they had a chance to hunt down the truth and save their species from a war they didn't start. Set course for the Sigma sector, he ordered. It's time to show them what human hunters can really do. As the Starlight Wanderer slipped away from the council station, Jake knew they were crossing a line they could never uncross. The age of pretending was over. Now came the age of truth, no matter how dangerous that truth might be. The Corvin facility looked like a giant metal hive floating in the darkness of space. Thousands of lights blinked across its surface, and ships moved around it like worker insects serving their queen. Jake Morrison studied it through his ships, sensors, and felt like a wolf watching a sheep farm. Security is tight, Lisa Chen reported from her navigation station. I count 20 patrol ships, automated defense platforms, and sensor networks covering every approach route. Getting in without being detected will be almost impossible. Pete Rodriguez looked up from his engineering console with a grin that would have scared the aliens who thought humans were peaceful traders. Almost impossible is our specialty, isn't it, Captain? 3 days of traveling through enemy space had changed the crew of the Starlight Wanderer. They moved differently now, talked differently, even breathed differently. The friendly masks were completely gone, replaced by something that had been sleeping in human DNA for millions of years. Amy Watson was deep in her communication systems, listening to dozens of channels at once. I'm intercepting their security frequencies, patrol schedules, guard rotations, supply deliveries. They're running this place like a military base, not a research facility. What kind of research requires that much security? Jake asked, though he already suspected the answer. The kind that involves planning genocide, Lisa said quietly. Jake felt cold fire in his chest. The Corvins weren't just trying to turn the galaxy against humans. They were preparing to wipe humanity out completely. Every human ship, every human colony, every human life, all of it marked for destruction. Amy, can you get us inside their communication network? Already working on it, she replied. Her fingers moved across her controls like a pianist playing a deadly song. Their encryption is good, but human code breaking is better. Give me another hour. While Amy worked, Jake contacted other human ships across the galaxy. The response was immediate and frightening. Human vessels everywhere were reporting the same thing. They were being tracked, surrounded, and slowly cut off from safe harbors. Captain Roy Baker of the merchant ship Free Spirit was hiding in an asteroid field near the Centauri system. They've got us marked, Jake, he said through an encrypted channel. Every human ship in this sector is being hunted. But here's the strange part. Some of them are fighting back like they've been waiting for this moment their whole lives. Captain Sarah Kim was running supplies to human colonies on the outer rim. It's like someone flipped a switch, she reported. Our people are dropping the peaceful act and showing what we can really do. The aliens are scared, Jake, really scared. Jake realized that humanity's 50-year masquerade was collapsing everywhere at once. Across the galaxy, human merchants and diplomats were revealing advanced weapons, military training, and tactical knowledge that should have been impossible for a peaceful species to possess. "Captain," Amy said suddenly, "I'm inside their network, and what I'm finding is worse than we thought." The main screen filled with stolen data from the Corvin facility, file after file of intelligence on human colonies, ship movements, and population centers. But worse were the operational plans labeled Final Solution Protocol. Jake read through the documents with growing horror. The Corvins had been planning this for years. They had identified humanity as a long-term threat to their dominance and had spent decades preparing to eliminate them completely. The attack on Horizon Base was just the trigger to start a galaxy-wide war against humans. "Look at this," Pete said, pointing to a technical analysis on his screen. "They've been studying our ships for months. They know about our hidden weapon systems, our real engines, even our emergency protocols. They know everything." "Not everything," Lisa said with a dangerous smile. "They know what we wanted them to know." Jake felt something click in his mind. "What do you mean?" Lisa pulled up navigation charts that showed human ship movements over the past year. "Look at the patterns, Captain. Every human vessel in the galaxy has been moving according to a plan. We've been positioning ourselves." Amy's eyes went wide as she understood. The merchant routes, the supply runs, the diplomatic missions. We haven't been randomly scattered across the galaxy. We've been deployed. Jake looked at the data with new eyes and saw the truth. Humanity hadn't been hiding among the aliens for 50 years. They had been infiltrating them. Every human ship was in exactly the right position to cut supply lines, disrupt communications, or strike at vital infrastructure. Earth Command has been playing a game that no one else even knew existed, he said quietly. Pete was grinning like a wolf. "The Corvins think they're hunting scattered prey. They don't realize they're surrounded by a coordinated pack." Amy intercepted a priority transmission from deep inside the Corvan facility. "Captain, I'm getting something big. It's a communication from their military command to someone called Warlord Kresh." The name sent ice through Jake's veins. Kresh was the Ravak leader who had attacked Horizon Base. If the Corvins were working with him, then the conspiracy went even deeper than they had imagined. "Can you decode it?" Jake asked. "Already done," Amy replied. "They're ordering Kresh to attack human colonies in the outer systems, make it look like random pirate raids while their fleet movements are hidden by the galactic crisis." Jake realized they had found the smoking gun they needed. Proof that the Corvins were using the Ravak as a puppet force to attack human civilians while the galaxy was distracted by fear. It was enough evidence to expose the whole conspiracy. But getting that evidence back to the Galactic Council would require them to escape from the heart of enemy space while being hunted by the entire Corvin fleet. "Amy, how many human ships are in communication range?" 17 in this sector, Captain. All of them reporting similar intelligence findings." Jake made a decision that would have shocked the aliens who thought humans were peaceful traders. "Signal them all. Tell them it's time to stop pretending we're going in." What happened next would become legend among the spacefaring species of the galaxy. 18 human ships that had been pretending to be helpless merchants suddenly revealed themselves as something much more dangerous. They moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single hunting organism that had been scattered across space and was now coming back together. The Starlight Wanderer led the attack, using information Amy had stolen from the Corvin networks to bypass their outer defenses. Pete's hidden weapon systems tore through shield generators that weren't designed to face human military technology. Lisa flew their ship through defensive fire with moves that belonged in a fighter craft, not a cargo hauler. The Corvin facilities. Defenders never had a chance. They were expecting to fight peaceful traders who might have a few hidden weapons. Instead, they faced coordinated assault teams who had been studying their weaknesses for decades while pretending to be friends. Jake's boarding party moved through the facility like ghosts. They knew the layout from stolen blueprints, knew the guard rotations from intercepted communications, and knew exactly where to find the evidence they needed. Amy downloaded years of conspiracy planning, while Pete planted charges that would ensure no one could delete the files after they left. But the real shock came when they reached the facility's command center. Commander Zek, the Corvin strategist, who had planned humanity's destruction, was waiting for them with a squad of guards. "You are too late, humans," Zek buzzed through his translation device. "The final phase has already begun. Your colonies are under attack. Your ships are being hunted down across the galaxy. Soon your species will be nothing but a memory." Jake smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. "Commander, you made one critical mistake in your planning." "What mistake?" Zek demanded. "You assumed we were prey," Jake replied. "But humans aren't prey, Commander. We're persistence hunters, and we've been hunting you for 50 years. Amy's console chimed with incoming messages from human ships across the galaxy. "Captain, reports are coming in from every sector. Human vessels are revealing their true capabilities everywhere. The Corvins aren't hunting scattered merchants anymore. They're fighting a coordinated military force that's been hiding in plain sight for half a century." Jake looked at Commander Zek and saw fear in the alien's compound eyes for the first time. The Corvin was beginning to understand that his perfect plan had one fatal flaw. He had never really understood what humans were capable of when they stopped pretending to be something else. The hunt was over. Now came the reckoning. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything like it. Every screen in the massive dome showed the same impossible sight: human ships across the galaxy revealing weapons and capabilities that should not have existed. What the council members thought were helpless merchant vessels were tearing through military fleets like wolves among sheep. Jake Morrison stood in the center of the chamber, no longer pretending to be a simple trader. The evidence from the Corvin facility played on screens around him, showing years of conspiracy and planned genocide. But the real shock was what was happening outside. "This is impossible," Speaker Thane buzzed, his forearms shaking as he pointed at the tactical displays. "These are merchant ships, peaceful traders. They cannot have this kind of military power." Ambassador Helen Brooks smiled, and for the first time in 50 years, she let the aliens see what that smile really meant. "Speaker Thane, allow me to introduce you to humanity's true nature." On the screens, Captain Roy Baker's ship, Free Spirit, was engaged with 3 Corvin destroyers. The aliens expected an easy victory against a cargo hauler. Instead, they watched the human ship move like a predator, using weapons that carved through military armor like it was paper. Within minutes, 2 destroyers were floating debris and the third was surrendering. "How is this possible?" demanded the Zephyrian representative, his gaseous form flickering with shock and fear. "Your species has been among us for 50 years. We have seen your ships, your technology. You are peaceful beings who help others." Helen nodded calmly. "We are helpful. We have spent 50 years healing your sick, protecting your trade routes, and solving your problems. But peaceful and helpless are not the same thing." Captain Sarah Kim's voice came through the communication system from the outer rim. "Council members, this is Captain Kim of the vessel Starfish. The Ravok fleet that has been attacking human colonies just surrendered. Turns out they were more afraid of us than we were of them once we stopped pretending to be merchants." Jake watched the alien representatives trying to understand what they were seeing. For half a century, they had lived next to apex predators, while thinking they were caring for harmless pets. The revelation was breaking their understanding of the galaxy. "The Corvins told us you were dangerous," said an Altarian representative, his feathers still puffed with fear. "They said you were predators hiding among peaceful species." "The Corvins were right," Jake replied simply. "We are predators. We evolved as persistence hunters on a world where only the smartest and strongest survived. But they made one critical mistake in their analysis." Amy Watson's voice came through from the Starlight Wanderer, still in orbit around the Council station. "Captain, I'm receiving surrender requests from Corvin ships across the galaxy. Their entire military command structure is collapsing." Pete Rodriguez added his report. "The Corvin fleet that was supposed to surround us just asked for safe passage home. Turns out they don't want to fight humans when we're not pretending to be helpless." Helen Brooks walked to the center of the chamber, her presence commanding attention from every species present. "The mistake the Corvins made was assuming that predators cannot choose to be civilized. They thought our peaceful behavior was weakness, when in fact, it was strength. She gestured to the screens showing human ships across the galaxy. For 50 years we could have conquered any of you. Our ships were always capable of this level of combat. Our people were always trained for war. Our technology was always superior to yours in every meaningful way. The chamber erupted in shocked voices as representatives realized the implications. The humans could have taken over the galaxy at any time, but had chosen not to. But why? Asked an Ixari, their crystal body pulsing with confused colors. If you had this power, why did you pretend to be weak? Why help us instead of conquering us? Jake stepped forward. Because conquest is what animals do. Civilization is what intelligent beings choose. He pointed to the tactical displays. Right now, human ships are positioned to cut the supply lines to every major world in the galaxy. We could starve entire star systems into submission within months. We could destroy your fleets, occupy your planets, and rule over you as conquerors. The aliens looked at the displays with growing horror, seeing how completely they had been surrounded without knowing it. But we won't, Helen continued. Because that's not who we choose to be. Humans learned long ago that cooperation is more powerful than domination. We would rather have allies than slaves, friends than subjects. Amy's voice came through the communication system again. Captain, the Corvin leadership is requesting immediate negotiations. Commander Zek is offering full confession in exchange for protection from their own military, who are apparently not happy about the failed genocide plan. Jake nodded. Tell them they can confess to the Galactic Council, in public, with full disclosure of everyone who was involved. Speaker Thane was staring at the displays, trying to process what he was seeing. Your entire species has been living a lie for 50 years. Not a lie, Helen corrected. A choice. We chose to be neighbors instead of conquerors. We chose to heal instead of harm. We chose to build instead of destroy. But when someone threatens our people, we also choose to defend ourselves. Lisa Chen's voice came from the navigation station of the Starlight Wanderer. Captain, I'm tracking human ship movements across the galaxy. Everyone is returning to their normal patrol routes. The demonstration is over. Jake realized that this was the critical moment. The galaxy had seen what humans were truly capable of, and now they had to decide what came next. Fear could drive them to attempt another war, or wisdom could help them understand the choice humanity was offering. We return to our previous arrangements, Helen announced to the Council. Human ships will continue their trade routes, supply missions, and diplomatic duties. We will continue to help solve your problems and heal your sick. Nothing changes except that now you know the truth. But how can we trust you? Demanded the Altarian representative. How can we live knowing that you could destroy us whenever you wanted? Helen smiled again, and this time the aliens understood what they were seeing. The confidence of a predator who had nothing to prove. The same way we have trusted you for 50 years, knowing that any of you could have discovered our secret and turned the galaxy against us. Trust is a choice, just like civilization. Commander Zek's voice came through the communication system, transmitted from his prison cell on the captured Corvin facility. The human ambassador speaks the truth. My people have studied them for decades, looking for weaknesses to exploit. But their greatest strength is not their weapons or their ships. It is their patience. Jake nodded. Humans think in centuries, not years. We plan for the future of our children's children. Conquest gives you power for a generation. Cooperation gives you power forever. The council chamber was quiet for a long time as the representatives considered what they had learned. Finally, Speaker Thane spoke for all of them. What do you want from us now? He asked. Helen Brooks looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of species, aliens who had learned that they had been living next to apex predators for 50 years and were still alive because those predators had chosen mercy over conquest. The same thing we have always wanted, she replied. To be good neighbors. To help each other solve problems. To build a galaxy where our children can grow up in peace. Jake felt something settle in his chest, like a weight he had been carrying, for decades finally being lifted. The secret was out, but the fear was fading. The galaxy was learning that humans were dangerous, but they were learning something else too. Dangerous did not mean evil. "The age of pretending is over," he said quietly to his crew. "Now comes the age of truth." And across the galaxy, humanity stepped into the light, no longer hiding what they were but proud of who they had chosen to become.